Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin.
Officials have declared a state of emergency. Everybody they kill gets up and kills. Residents are advised to find a safe place and stay there.
Execute Code Red.
The Doomsday Machine.
We celebrate our Independence Day.
That's right, the sirens are still, we can't shut these fucking sirens off. They just keep, all summer long, they just keep going. Then eventually they'll just slowly go away in the background. But, we're not going to pay attention to that. I'm talking about at the beginning of the shows, the sirens keep on going. Because the Spook Show disaster keeps on rolling. We're only roughly, we're probably, I'd say, easily halfway through this by now. We got about another month or so left in the disaster before we get back to regularly scheduled program. Before the waters will start to calm down and we can get back to your programming as scheduled, previously scheduled. So, but that won't be until like late August. One disaster after another. Last week we talked about our favorite disaster movie, so we gave you a lot of kind of the stuff that we like that maybe we're not doing here on the show, stuff like that. But this week we're getting back on the grind, back to watching a movie and talking about it. And this is a sequel to one we've done before. We're watching 28 Weeks Later from 2007. Now, this was a sequel to 28 Days Later that we had talked about all the way back in episode 27. So it's been a long time ago that we did that.
I think the whole reason we even watched that in the first place is because of COVID.
Yeah, we did. You're right. I think we were kind of lighthearted, like, COVID, it's only going to last a couple of weeks. And here we are, years later, and it's still a thing. But at least, we got through the harder parts right of that first year and a half or so. But, yeah, I think when we chose that, we're like, oh, this will be kind of funny. And then it turned into a horrible, horrible situation.
Wait, is this also the one that we swapped out for Tales from the Hood?
No. Well, you know what? No, that was a little bit after that.
No, yeah, that was a little bit further.
I don't remember exactly which one, but that was a little bit further down. Like, I think we went back to like Annabelle Creation or some shit like that when we kind of pivoted off Tales from the Hood. It turns out that was horrible timing on our part, but a lot of times we're really good about the timing, and then other times not so well. So it's a little sketchy.
Well, it could have been worse. At least we didn't already have it released right before.
Yeah, like it was already scheduled to come out that day, and then oh no. But yeah, luckily that didn't happen. But yeah, anyway, so we're coming back to Danny Boyle's creation, right? Although this one was directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, so it's a completely different crew of people, and obviously actors and everything like that from the first one, but very similar tone, right?
Not entirely different. He did direct some of the second unit shots.
Okay, so he was involved. He was involved.
Yeah, and I'm blanking on the other. Alex was also
Garland.
Yeah, Alex Garland was also, I think,
Andrew McDonald,
writer or producer. Both of them were producers.
Now this is a disaster of different types of proportion, really, because like this is somewhat like a zombie apocalypse, right? But they're not really zombies. This is more like, in this world, you get infected by this, whatever this is, this virus.
Rage virus.
Rage. And then you just live to infect other people, right? So it's not like you're shambling zombies of Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead or any of that kind of the Dead variety type stuff, the Romero type stuff. This is more like fast running around. We exist to kill you, kind of, for lack of a better term, zombies, right? So this is different. Yeah. So it kind of falls into zombie apocalypse, but it also kind of falls into the post-apocalyptic category too, because by the time you get here, obviously, that by the title, 28 Weeks Later, how many months is that, by the way? Is that 6 months, roughly, give or take? Quick math.
Yeah, so something like that.
You're roughly 6 months or so after the original event has gone down, and like, I guess what did they say? Like, basically all of England, but I guess most of Europe is probably been wiped out by this? Because
I guess you kind of assume that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they never really get down into. I don't remember the hard numbers of like, well, this many died and all that kind of stuff. But you're far removed from apparently most of the people that were infected have now died of starvation. So most of them are gone, right? But obviously, there's a story to tell, so the virus lives on. But from what you understand here is that, like, you're 6 months after England or Britain has been wiped out by this rage virus. Different in those regards from the past handful of movies that we've watched leading up to this. But like I said, we did talk about 28 Days Later all the way back in episode 27. So you can go to aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe, and you can listen to all of our podcast archives, including that one. So we recommend you go check that one out. And Donnie, you weren't around for that one, so if you want to hear what it was like,
not.
If you want to hear what it was like in the days long ago before Donnie came on board,
Days of yore.
yeah, the days of yore, that one's there for you. Also, while you're on the website, go check out our YouTube channel where we have cool series over there like Grindhouse Gutter, Video Vortex, Traumatic Experience, all kinds of shit. Also, we've got our Patreon, patreon.com/AASpookShow. Speaking of shit, Crapster Piece Theater. We've got that for you over there. So if you want to talk about, listen to us, talk about just the turds of moviedom, that's the place. Including last month when we talked to, not we, y'all, talked about Disaster Movie. I still haven't watched it and I ain't going to watch it.
Ugh.
So take that, fucker.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Lucky you, son of a bitch.
You should, you should kind of delve into the what we actually did in, I guess, as a prank to you.
So yeah, I'll throw this out there since he mentions it. So these guys, like, I didn't have to be there because I won the poll because I had nominated Disaster Movie. So I don't have to be there. I ain't gonna be there. So Will couldn't be there, so it was just Donnie and Smoke recording. They recorded it and then sent it to me, and I noticed it's only like 2.5 minutes long, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? They had recorded a dummy one where they're basically like, no, I didn't watch it. Did you? Nope. All right. Well, next month we're going to be talking about it. And that was it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, how am I going to make a show out of this? And then, jokes on me. They had recorded a real one, and they hated me so much for making them watch Disaster Movie that they wanted to fuck with me. So,
yeah, a little peek behind the curtain. We play pranks pretty often.
Yeah, happens too often. Actually, you're off the show now.
No. Oh.
Who knows what the next piece of turd that we will watch? I mean, we're still in the middle of the Spook Show Disaster, so we're going to have one coming up here at the end of July, on July 28th. So actually not this Friday, but next. That'll be coming out. So we'll let you know when we get closer to time exactly what that's going to be. We're here to talk about 28 Weeks Later, so I guess before we dive into the background and start talking about it, we'll go ahead and throw to the trailer for that.
Welcome to London.
How old are you, Auntie?
12.
I think that makes you the youngest person in the entire country.
Oh, I missed you so much.
What are you afraid of?
What if it comes back?
It won't come back.
What if it does?
If it comes back, we kill it.
If you come into direct contact with the infected.
What happened, Dad?
It's Mom. Step 1, kill the infected. Step 2, containment. Containment fails. Step 3. Extermination.
Do you think Mum's still alive?
Not this time.
We've lost control.
Now they won't stop until everyone is dead.
Code red.
All right, so there you go. That's the trailer for 28 Weeks Later. So, has everybody seen this before this viewing, or was this a first time watch for anybody?
I'd only started watching it back when the sequel came out, and then for whatever reason stopped watching it, and then never got back to it again until now.
So really, this is a first time watch for you, pretty much, right?
Because I don't remember how much of it I saw, but it was probably less than half. I didn't stop because I hated it or anything. It was a rental. This goes back to Hollywood Video days, I guess. Rented it from Hollywood Video and didn't get to finish it and had to take it back and then never got back to it.
Yeah.
Even though I own it on DVD now.
Yeah.
This episode came along and I got to finish it after however many years that was. 2007, right?
Yep, 2007. See, it's been a while. Just as a point of reference as well. Now, like I said back in episode 27, we talked about 28 Days Later. Donnie wasn't there, but the rest of us, all three of us, gave it 3 3/4 stars. So just as a reference later on when we're rating this one, if you want to compare, we highly recommend checking out 28 Days Later and the episode on that. But just bookmark that for later on when we're giving out the ratings for this one. This one, I didn't really see any other like alternate titles, but I'm assuming that's because they knew what this was going to be, right? It's the sequel to that, and they wanted weeks. Now I've heard rumors that there was going to be. They wanted to make a 28 months later, and then I guess maybe eventually 28 years later or something like that, right? But it just never came to fruition. But I'd heard some rumors that maybe that's being kicked around again. Like, it's possible that they might finally get around to that. Because it seems like I saw something just about like within the last year or two about that. So, hey, you never know. You never know. This one, I guess it wasn't. I don't know as far as like comparing the numbers. They did this for a budget of $15 million, and the box office worldwide it made $65.8 million. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was a failure. I mean, like these are like smaller type flicks, right? Like these aren't the kind of movies that you're hoping to rake in hundreds of millions of dollars for. Especially for when it came out. It came out May 11th, so I guess you would anticipate a little bit more once you something comes out in May, right? Because it came out May 11th, 2007. So you would, I guess you're encroaching that summer blockbuster season. You would hope that something will do better than that. But maybe that's why they never made another one after this. I don't know. I didn't dive too deep into that aspect of things. But
well, what I read was that apparently they had talked about it 28 months later.
Mm-hmm.
The issue that came up is the fact that there is, I guess, not one person owns it. It's like a group of 2 or 3 people, and those 2 or 3 people don't talk anymore.
Willie in his car. Going back to the first episode.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was produced by Fox Atomic, DNA Films, Figment Films, Sojacine. I guess that's how you say that. Sogecine. It's either Sojacine or Sojacine. I don't know. And Cohen Films. And of course, it was distributed by 20th Century Fox in the UK, but here in the US, it was distributed by Fox Atomic, which basically same company, right? And like I said earlier, it actually debuted April 26th, 2007 in London, but played here in the US and wide May 11th. Over on IMDb, it is listed as an action, adventure / horror. It's rated R, of course. You watch it, you'll understand, obviously. Total runtime, 1 hour and 40 minutes. It was directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, and it was written by Rowan Jaffe Fresnadillo and Enrique Lopez Lavin. And the stars of this movie, man, it's kind of like a who's who, really, of like some that made it a lot bigger in the years after. Not all of these were household names yet, but a lot of them became household names in the next 5 or 10 years, right? Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, Robert Carlyle, Harold Perrineau, Catherine McCormick, Idris Elba, Imogen Poots, which is still like, that's got to be a horseshit name, but apparently it ain't. Yeah. Here's another good name, Macintosh Muggleton. Sounds like a fucking reject from Harry Potter.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Yeah. Amanda Walker. I mean, like, it really is. It's impressive when you like look back and you're like, wow, this is right before some of it, like, especially like Jeremy Renner, Idris Elba, Rose Byrne, this is kind of right before or right around the time that they really became much
Kinda
bigger
took
names.
off.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy what they were able to put together here. But yeah, was there any other things that you guys wanted to point out about this one before we dive into the meat of it?
And it's kind of like a running joke here about the credits and all that. But there are no opening credits at all.
Yeah.
It just kind of picks up.
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
house.
really, all you get is like the they're kind of catching you up on what happened before in a way. Like 28, the event happens, the virus spreads, and then it's like 28 days later, 28, or so many other weeks later. Like there's intervals, and then it works its way up to 28 weeks later, and then boom, here we go. So yeah, there really is no proper credits at the beginning or anything for sure.
Yeah.
It was nominated for a number of films, or I'm sorry, awards. Good Lord, this is a film. It wasn't nominated by other films for whatever that meant. It was nominated for a number of awards, but it won Best Horror for the 2008 Empire Awards, and that was in the UK. It won the, I don't even know, Eloy de la Iglesia Award. This is in the Malaga Spanish Film Festival in 2008. And it seems like there was one more that I've lost it. There was another one. Here it is. Best Horror Movie at the Scream Awards back in 2007. You remember the Scream Awards? Whatever happened to those things?
Yeah.
That was kind of like the MTV kind of, or Spike TV or some shit, like their version of the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, right? The Scream Awards.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten all about that. But yeah, it won the Best Horror Movie that year. So yeah, it was nominated for a bunch of others, but that's the only ones that it actually took home. So that's interesting.
But one other thing too worth noting, just before we move on to the next part, is there was a graphic novel that was produced that bridges the gap between the events and 28 days later and 28 weeks later.
Yeah, it seems like I've seen that before. I've never read it, but I knew that existed.
Yeah, it was called The Aftermath. 28 days later, The Aftermath.
I do have the top 10 in the box office the weekend that it debuted. So this is the weekend of May 11th through the 13th, 2007, the top 10. Actually, I'll go to the top 11 because I thought this was funny. Number 11 was the Blades of Glory. Remember that Will Ferrell?
Shit.
It was in its 7th week at the time. But number 10, ironically, and I only say that because it's still got that British movie thing going on with it, Hot Fuzz. Remember that was part of the Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah,
trilogy,
those guys.
They call that? Yeah. Hot Fuzz. That was out in its 4th week this particular weekend. Number 9 was Next. Number 8, Meet the Robinsons. Number 7, The Invisible. Number 6, Fracture. Number 5, you got me on this one because I don't remember this. I guess it was a spoof. And its opening weekend, Delta Farce. So I assume it was a spoof of Delta Force, of those action type of flicks, I guess. I don't know.
But that many years later, too, huh? That's a deep hole there.
Delta
They're making
Force.
a Delta Force parody.
In 2007.
However many years after.
Oh, shit. That's with Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, shit. Well, there you go. So it's probably not a spoof, or more of just a spoof on the name with the fucking redneck comedy guys.
Yeah.
Number 4, Disturbia. Number 3, in its opening weekend, Georgia Rule. Number 2, in its opening weekend, 28 weeks later, it raked in, here in the U.S., because it's the domestic box office, $9.8 million in its first opening weekend. And then number 1, still somewhat kicking ass in 2 weeks. Well, I mean, it was kicking ass, although this was one that we don't favorably look back on. Spider-Man 3 was in its 2nd week. It had already made worldwide $240.2 million, and it just raked in another $58 million this particular weekend. But boy, I think that probably took a nosedive after that, and that is not one that people look favorably back on.
It's intermission, it's intermission. It's intermission, it's intermission. Ice cream, candy, lemonade too. And there's a hot dog waiting for you.
The popcorn's popping and it's ready to go. You know all the great food is stealing the show.
Get up out your seat and get yourself a tasty treat down at the snack bar. Snack bar.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So I went to audible.com and typed in 28 weeks later, and basically nothing came up. So I just decided to type in zombie apocalypse books to see what will pop up. And of course, almost 200 results came back. We've got This is an Audible exclusive. The Last Survivors box set. The complete post-apocalyptic series, books 1 through 6. That is by Bobby Adair and T.W. Piperbrook. And that's just, good Lord, this whole thing, Donnie, this is for you, buddy. There's 6 books now.
Oh, okay, so 10 minutes? All right, cool.
50 hours and 24 minutes.
Fuck that.
To listen to all 6 books. So that sounds like a deep dive for you.
No.
You could read for 50 hours.
No, I'd off myself is what I do.
You think,
like I'm not doing this.
That sounds bad, right? Now, that's pretty bad. This is even worse. This is called All Dead, the complete 12 books of the Dead series by T.W. Brown. This is 12 books, 143 hours and 15 minutes.
No.
Jesus.
I think I'd rather go to church.
Oh, I think I'd rather eat Arby's.
I'm so hungry I could eat Arby's.
One more. After It Happened, Publisher's Pack, books 1 and 2 by Devin C. Ford. That one is just a mere 12 hours and 39 minutes long. So a little bit of everything. And that's an Audible exclusive as well. And like I said, almost 200 results came back. So tons of options there. So if any of that floats your fancy, go run. Don't walk. Run over to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobooks. So now I'm going to flop back over to IMDb and look for the plot summary to see what pops up. And then we're going to pull up our one of our newer features we've done over the last handful of episodes. I'm going to type it into Chat GPT and see what it's got to say. But here on IMDb on the plot summaries, you got 6 months after the rage virus was inflicted on the population of Great Britain, the U.S. Army helps to secure a small area of London for the survivors to repopulate and start again. But not everything goes according to plan. Boy, it does not go to plan, does it? So I'm going to type, kind of basically explain this to us on Chat GPT, but like kind of in a funny way. So here's what it says. Imagine a game of tag gone horribly wrong, but with zombies. And 28 weeks later, it's all about running away from the infected faster than you've ever sprinted in your life. Just when you think it's safe to catch your breath, the undead start multiplying like rabbits on caffeine. It's a wild, chaotic race where survival is the ultimate prize, and hiding spots become as rare as winning lottery tickets. So grab your running shoes, practice your zombie impersonation just in case, and prepare for a thrilling, heart-pounding game of don't get tagged or eaten. I guess that works. I don't know. Chat GPT, man, it's a little off. It's a little off sometimes in its explanation of things. Because, I know it's in a funny way, right? But it's not really like explaining the movie at all there. It's just kind of like, beating around the bush. Like, oh, hey, this will be funny if we frame it this way kind of thing. So there's some computer out there chuckling softly to itself right now. They came up with that clever response. So, Donnie, where do you want to start, though, with this one?
Much like we alluded to earlier, there's no opening credits. They're just holed up in the house. You've got, Don, basically the main characters. You got Don, you got Alice, and there's about 4 other people. They basically are lighting the place with candles. And then, they hear like rattling at the door, and there's this kid, this little boy that's outside. They let him in. Basically in the first 11 minutes, almost all of them die. Yeah, almost all of them die. Maybe a few infected when they actually charge the house. Mm-hmm. One thing that I did like about this is that, infection, infection really only takes a few seconds after they get bitten.
Now, remember, they had kind of put out that premise in the first movie. Where, like, some people, it's almost instantaneous. Like, you get bit or slobbered on, whatever the hell, you almost instantly, like, bam, you turn around and, and then you're charging at the next person. Or, literally, some of them, like, they do that. But in other cases, it might take a minute, right? Like, you might have time to, like, say your goodbyes and then, so. But they had kind of established that already.
Yeah.
I want to say in the first one, that was the one where like the blood dropped down from like a tower.
Yeah, when that one
and hit the dude in the eye.
Yeah, he just happened to like look up at that moment where the one droplet of blood fell and hit him in the eye, and then he has time to turn around and kind of say his goodbyes, like get the fuck back.
Yeah,
and then.
And I will say, like, the beginning of this movie kind of starts almost where Dawn of the Dead ends, the original.
Yeah.
Or Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, what you mean, like in the sense of like
all the people were in the house together, like
yeah. Well, I didn't even think about that correlation, but there is some similarities there with them in the house and everything to what happened there in Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, there's also
hold up in this house with everything like Night of the Living Dead with all the boards over the windows, right, and all that. I guess trying to keep a low profile from any wandering ragers or whatever you want to call them in the street.
Except in this one, everybody goes instead of just shambling. What now? There is
you should hear them coming from a mile off.
Yeah, they're just going. I'm crazy, you'd know. Oh shit! I better go left.
Sound like a bunch of turkeys.
Smoke them. Smoke. There is the side conversation to have here is what do you prefer? Because there's always this argument. Do you like the slow shambling Romero type zombies, or do you like these? We're ready to fucking eat you and kill you, running around infected type people zombie.
Well, I am a traditionalist, so I have to go with it. I've always preferred. Now, well, technically, we've already said it. These really aren't zombies, right? But these movies have always been considered zombie movies too. I think they're splitting hairs there. It's like, they're not dead; they're infected. Yeah, but it's still using the premise of a zombie movie. But when we're talking about actual zombies, like in Romero's Dawn of the Dead versus, let's say, the remake of Dawn of the Dead, where they were faster zombies, I've always preferred the slower style of zombie, I guess, just because, I don't know, just because it was what I came up with Night of the Living Dead, Dawn, Day, and all. Pretty much every zombie movie from that era, with the exception maybe of Return of the Living Dead, but that was a zombie comedy. They had some running zombies, at least in a few scenes in that movie. But yeah, I prefer the slower ones personally.
Donnie,
how about y'all?
Donnie, what do you prefer?
I think, as far as like, obviously Smoke's right in his, there's nothing wrong with the slow, the slow methodical kind of zombies, but it does kind of get more intense when they're like fucking Olympic sprinters, and they're just...
I think to me, I've always felt like I lean more towards the Romero, the classic zombie stuff, but to me, this is scarier because this shit can catch you, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm an old fat dude, right? Like these, I'm dead in this world, but in the Romero world, I could survive that for a little,
Get a chance.
Yeah. Just give me a sharp weapon and a couple clean shots, and I can get out of that. This, I'm probably fucked. So like this to me is scarier in that regard. But yeah, I agree with Smoking that like I always kind of lean more. My favorite stuff is more that kind of stuff, right?
I think it's more plausible when you're talking about zombies, I guess, like not that zombies are going to come back to life and that'll be a realistic situation but if they did, you would think, they probably wouldn't be very fast. I mean, especially if they were ones that are coming up out of the grave, right? And decomposing. But when you're in an infected type movie where they're not dead, they've just been infected by something, it's definitely more plausible that they would run after your ass.
I feel like the ones that would dig themselves out of a grave, they're probably pretty strong.
Yeah, if you dug yourself all the way up into that grave.
There is a little bit of like fantasy there though, and that like if they're strong enough to dig themselves out, but they're rotten corpses, right? Like they usually come out and they're barely held together. But how the hell do they dig themselves out of the
right?
It kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
especially when you think about Return of the Living Dead. Like, like Tarman and shit like that. Like some of that stuff is like, it looks like you can just go and they would just fall apart, in some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I'm going to say the same things that y'all have as far as those movies, but it definitely feels like a lot of the time the slow zombie is meant more for like the personal drama. Where like the like the rage virus and the people running around, like the dead is more of a character, as opposed to in the slow ones, they're just something to push the character story.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
They're definitely told from a completely different.
The fear comes, I guess, from it being multiple. Like some of those, like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Usually, the fear factor comes in with not just being one. Like they got one, they deal with easy, or two, they deal with easy. And then all of a sudden you look this way, and then there's like 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 coming up over this hill or whatever, and you're like, then things start getting a little interesting. Or they basically overwhelm them with numbers, and that's pretty much where your tension comes from, I guess, with the Romero style, because it's not going to come because they aren't running yet. Like they're not running at you, so it's not tense that way. It's more like them just being around a corner where you didn't see them, or multiple ones.
I think you get scares either way, but like to me, it just seems like more of an effective scare in a lot of ways when it's something that like this that would be hard to combat. You know, like unless you're fucking quick on the draw, so to speak, like you're toast here. And I mean by like they just spit at you in your general direction. You know, you're probably like going to turn around and just go ape shit on somebody. You know, like that. So there's a little bit more. Now there's not a lot like these too, though. You know, if you're just comparing to other zombie movies, there's not a lot of quote unquote zombie movies that are like quite like these two movies, right? Where you do time that fast. Usually there's some time period.
These are like they ate bath salts and then like a bunch of PCP at the same time.
That's what the original title of this was. I meant to tell you it was Bath Salts the movie. Forgot to mention.
Now, you know what would be the worst thing in this like, you know, horror universe right here is the woman at the beginning who is a carrier, but she's still, you know, there, but she's a close talker.
Mm-hmm. You know, you mentioned it there when we talked about the cold open and all that. How about Don? How big of a piece of shit is Don in this movie, huh?
Yeah. Well, also, you know, he, I guess the boy that they brought in, like once the, you know, the infected started to basically attack the house and, you know, kill, you know, a bunch of people, Alice and the boy went upstairs. And, well, actually, Alice and the boy and Don both went upstairs. And then the infected came in, and Don basically made a choice to ditch his wife with the boy.
Basically, he did. He's just like, well, deuces.
He's like, all right, see ya.
Even when he gets out of the house, he looks back, and she's like, Don, you know, beating on the window, and he's just like, no, double fuck you. And he keeps running, you know. But then he actually tries to help the guy in the boat. You know, just like, it does like he gives that the old college try, but fuck his wife, right? I'd like to think we're all better than that. You know, like you don't want to be that guy. And then he keeps up with the piece of shitness too, like a little bit later on, right? With
so
they find her. Yeah. Right? How I don't remember, maybe I missed it. How did she get back? Like she just meanders back, or
no,
they found her at their old house, right?
They do this was after they ended up finding her. They I guess the military brings her to this facility where they're like scrubbing her down, and she's like screaming. I was like, they must be using a scrub daddy.
Yeah.
Scrub daddy. I'd probably have the same reaction, but
that's the same fire hose from First Blood.
Yeah, it's the same one. Yep.
Yeah.
There's after that there's a little montage about how she survived, but it's literally like 10 seconds. It just shows her like going up the hill and then like turning around, looking around, going into the woods, and then that's it.
Yeah. So she got out. I guess that's all.
She got out. That's all you see.
That's all that matters. But like, they come to find out she's asymptomatic, right? That means she's a carrier of this, but she doesn't like she doesn't show that she has the virus, but she's got the virus.
But also previous to that, before they find her, Don actually lies to his kids, both Tammy and Andy, about the nature of Alice's death. So he said that he saw her get, bitten up and eaten.
Yeah.
And there's nothing he could do.
Step 2 in his master plan of piece of shitness was just straight up lying to his kids about the way their mom died. And then the final step of his piece of shitness is he tries to snuff her out.
Yeah. Well, it was actually, he finds out she's alive, and because he's got, basically a key card to the entire building, because I guess he was like maintenance or whatever. he goes into this holding area where she's held. Swipes his card, looks at her, and he doesn't know that she's a carrier, and it's in her blood and in her saliva.
They kiss,
and
he's infected.
yeah, they kiss, and then.
But it kind of felt like he would be willing to snuff her out. You know what I mean? But he obviously didn't try. But because they kiss, and then he's.
Yeah, he turns, and then the
domino starts all over again.
Yeah, he freaks out and attacks her, and then thumbs her eyes.
Yep.
And
pretty
it.
fucking grisly, brutal stuff here, right, Smoke?
Yeah. That's going to factor into the gore score.
Well, if anything would.
That and the helicopter scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was genius. Whoever thought up that idea. Well, you know what? They probably they could have got the idea from Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive.
There was also in
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, there was the chopper zombie. It was just one guy. It looked like he had a Herman Munster cap on.
Yeah, it's because he had like a fucking cake head on, you know.
That was great.
Anyways, 28 weeks later.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah.
I watched the 4K Blu-ray, but it doesn't matter what resolution you watch this in. London is dirty as fuck.
Yeah. Well, this is 6 months after, the apocalypse.
No.
Oh, you mean it's just like that's just what
it's
it is?
Just generally like the entire city needs power washed. It's just what a mess. Anyway,
I love that there goes the London crowd. After we've lost some a couple weeks ago from the Independence
Japan,
Day.
We lost Michigan.
Yeah,
we lost,
the Independence Day incident.
Parts of Houston.
What do you think of them mostly kind of bringing the same soundtrack over for this one? I mean, it was great. Why change it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I also saw they only had whoever scored it only had 2 weeks to score it.
I think it's James Murphy.
Yeah. It was John Murphy.
Or John Murphy.
I loved though that the main music, the dun 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 dun, dun and the crescendo of that, especially in that cold open sequence, because that music, and they played a handful of other times throughout the movie, but that really just fucking ratchets up the intensity, right? The tense. It keeps you even more on the edge of your seat. All this fucked up shit you're seeing in this music is just pounding you, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. It plays.
I think it was the same score from the first movie that was used in the beginning of the first movie, right? Whenever he introduced all that stuff going on.
Yep, that was same.
Yeah, definitely effective for that. For perfectly composed for showing a time period passing by and fucked up shit happening in that time period. I don't know what they said. Hey, give me something to score this, and he gave him the perfect thing to underscore that particular, scene, and he uses it in other parts of the movie too.
When Dawn is infected, and then it spreads like domino wildfire real quick. Boy, they don't take long for them to just say "fuck this city" and start firebombing it, does it?
Yeah, they're just you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah,
just kill everybody.
Yeah, because I think at first they're just shoot the infected, and then chaos. So fuck it, just shoot everybody. So
yeah,
it goes to shit quick.
Yeah, that was Idris Elba's character Stone basically gives that order just to kill everybody.
How about just the premise though that if this was let's just say because we're all here in the United States, this happens here, right? And you managed to survive this god awful event, would you want to go back that quick? I think I'd just say, you know what, I don't want to be in America no more. I'll go somewhere else.
No.
I think I just find a new country or a new place. You know what? I don't want to take any chance. I know they say they've all died and it's not infected anymore, but you know what? I don't play with Ouija boards either, so I'm not going back. But somehow they managed to get what they say around 15,000 people to come back already within 6 months. I don't know. I don't know if I like my place that much. But
no.
Fuck that place. I'm starting a new life. I'd stay far the fuck away from that. You mean there's this rage virus that's going to kill you on the spot? Pretty much? Nope, I'm out.
And this is actually pretty much where Flynn, the helicopter pilot. He's been kind of on the radio with Doyle. So he flies in to pick him up, but he doesn't want to take the civilians. Like there's a couple of adults with him, or an adult, and then the two kids, Tammy and Andy. He flies this is where the helicopter scene, where you've got the horde, probably dozens of infected, just kind of running down the hill.
It just goes sideways into all of them.
Yeah.
Starts smoking like a weed eater.
Yeah. I actually did that to a big ass anthill at my folks. I was like, oh yeah.
Here we go. 28 weeks later, that motherfucker.
I was inspired by it.
But, now that I watched this movie and I hadn't seen it when it came out, I'm gonna confuse it in my head with what was that Avengers movie where the Black Panther and Hawkeye was on top of a building and shoot people with sniper rifles? Which one was that?
Oh God, I don't remember.
I don't know.
There's specific ones there, but
I'm about 5-6 years behind the whole. Not films, years.
You just count them in years. Well, at the rate of 3 or 4 a year, you're about 20 behind.
No.
How does it wrap up? Basically, Doyle eventually kind of sacrifices himself, right? And then Scarlet dies right after.
Yeah, she's snuffed out pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, infected Don basically hunts his son Andy.
Yeah, this motherfucker.
Yeah,
the biggest piece of shit on the planet. He's still around.
Just when you think he can't be any more of a piece of shit, he's even more of a piece of shit as an infected.
Yeah, he becomes
hunts
like
his own
patient
son.
zero.
Yeah, and then so Alice was basically kind of like immune. She had that double iris type of double iris trait, and Andy also has it. So he's basically immune as well, but he gets bit by infected Don, but he doesn't turn. But then Tammy kills Don, basically shoots him with a fucking shotgun, which is awesome.
In a movie context is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
In this world.
Yeah. And then so they go out and they're at the stadium at this point, I believe. And then they go out to midfield, and Flynn is there with his helicopter, and realizes that Doyle is no longer around. Then they fly out, and you see dirty ass London again from above.
As he takes off, he says, "Doyle rules."
oh, Doyle rules. No, that's the alternate cut. That was one of the alternate endings they had.
Always eat bananas too.
Yep. And then 28 days later, the infected are in Paris. So get a little holiday vacation.
So it leads you to believe that, this story continues, right? But they still have yet, as of 2023, to continue the story. But you would imagine at some point, right, in this world we live in of reboots and sequels and requels and all kinds of shit, that
it's coming.
At some point, this is fresh ground for a third movie, right?
Unless it's 28 years, and then they say, "Oh yeah, 28 months."
Well,
or they'll just wait 8 years and then do 28 years later, and then 28 months they'll just kind of they'll put out another graphic novel for that. No,
well,
and then they'll go back to the origin. It'll be 28 seconds later.
Uh-huh. It's a short.
The prequel.
It's a short film.
28 seconds before. 28 seconds before. 28 days later.
It sounds like we're getting to spoof territory now, and we don't need any more spoofs. We've learned that lesson. All right, so there you go. That's 28 weeks later. So no one in particular nominated this. So Donnie, we'll let you start. This was a wild card selection. So what's your thoughts and star rating on it?
I mean, I pretty much already said that, they don't really waste any time with the infection process. Like that they carried that over from the original. Personally, I don't think it's better than the original, but, it's still bloody, still really violent, but, I mean, I still enjoy it. I'm going to give it a 3 stars.
This is going to be short and sweet. I'm just going to echo everything that Donnie said all the way down to the score.
Yeah, and I'm going to say the same thing, honestly. That's exactly the same rating I had in mind, because it's not a knock on this one, but it's not quite as good as 28 Days Later. But it's still really good. Plenty of violence, plenty of the same. It really is. It feels the same, in a lot of ways. It doesn't feel like they went in a completely opposite direction with the way this thing was put together and everything. It feels like a nice continuation, literally 6 months later, give or take. But, 3 stars is what I had in mind. So I'm not going quite as high as that one, but still really good. So, Smoke, what do you say?
Well, it's right down the line, because before we'd even talked about the ratings, I already had it in my head. Once you mentioned what the ratings were for the first movie, I'm like, yeah, this one probably sounds like a 3. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going with too, a 3. And again, echoing everything y'all said, it's entertaining, it's good, it's a great carry on from the first movie. It's just not quite, you get more of the same, but the fact that it was done in the first movie and done a little bit better in the writing, I can't give it more or equal to the first movie.
Yeah,
I think, for that. And it's more violence for sure. There's more gore in this movie.
I think you do get some more. I mean, there's plenty in that first one for sure, but I think you do get a little more in this.
But yeah, it's solid enough that I think it'll please. And if like me, if you'd seen the first movie and I had started this one, if you had never seen this one and you like the first movie, then I'm sure that you would enjoy this to some degree.
You should definitely check this one out. If you like the first one, this is definitely something you should watch for sure. All right, so Donnie, we'll start with you.
Connections from the crypt.
There you go.
Yeah, you're gonna enjoy this one. From the cast side, Idris Elba is actually connects back to a past Spook Show episode, and it was actually a Patreon episode. It was Josh's favorite, Cats.
No.
From when we did Crafts for Peace Theater over there. So
we don't connect shit to cats. That didn't happen.
Well, yeah. Well, if we do another Idris Elba one, it'll connect back to this one and Cats.
I hate that that's on his filmography. That just
I'm sure he hates it. As well.
I'm sure anyone involved with that probably does.
Yeah. On the freaking purring.
Nope.
On the crew side, makeup effects, Richard Glass, he's a contact lens tech, and he did past Spook Show episodes for the original 28 Days Later, Hellraiser, Hellraiser 3, and Shaun of the Dead.
Well, I say by and large, Will, the Summer Disaster has made your job easy, because to me, this is like, well, fuck it. You could say 10 or a million,
Well, with this one, obviously, I couldn't sit down and count how many people actually died on screen. Like this number could almost be infinite, or according to a website called Count the Dead, it's 203.
Wow. So
sounds about right.
So you want to go with that official number, 203?
Yeah, I think I'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because like I said, when you get a somewhat definitive number like that, I guess you go with it. But really, this could be like a handful we've already done, where it's like, well, also, most of these people died. Right? Now, you didn't see it all happen on screen, but there was 15,000 people that they had brought back into London. Right? So, I'd say most of those 15K dropped here. So it could be a very high number. So, yeah, either way. All right, well, I guess that naturally leads us to... Let's talk about the kill reel.
Highlight kill.
I think this one is tough in a way, because I think I'm just gonna go with the one that just is just fucking brutal. It's when Don gets infected from kissing his wife, and then her name was Alice, right? Alice.
Yeah.
And then just gouges her fucking brains out, her eyes. That's fucked up, man. And there's some really good ones, like you said, the helicopter, and there's some other really good. This is one of those kind of movies, right? There's lots of good stuff, but I'm gonna say that's the one that you can look back and yeah, that was pretty fucked. So maybe that's the name of this segment. It's not highlight kill. It's man, that was pretty fucked. I'm gonna go with that. So that naturally leads us all the way down to
Gore Score.
Yeah, this is much juicier than the last one we had, which was Independence Day. I believe, right? Well, at least
2 weeks
in the stream of the show itself, the show proper.
The movie,
which is a movie, but if you're looking for gore, that one's lacking it. This one replaces it for sure. It has, like we said, more gore, slightly more gore than the first 28 days later. That helicopter scene is just brutal as shit. Like heads fly, limbs fly. This sounds like a Joe Bob segment all of a sudden.
Helicopter foo.
Helicopter foo, legs fly. And yeah, the scene of his wife after, like you mentioned, as being the best kill is also probably the most brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, outright. I mean, yeah, the helicopter had more gore, but just sheer brutality, that scene was messed up.
Yeah.
With the wife. And plenty of scenes of ragers, whatever you call them, getting taken out, arms getting shot off, the holes getting blasted through them, them taking out people, like ripping their neck out or whatever. You know, it's blood splatter everywhere. I think you just pretty much have to go with you almost just have to go with a 9 on this one, just for the sheer amount, even though it's not, the kills and splatter effects maybe aren't as brutal as, say, something like Cannibal Holocaust or something along those lines, you know, as far as the sheer brutality of it. The sheer amount of violence and gore on the screen pretty much can't go any lower than a 9, I think.
Yeah, and you could argue a 10. I mean, it's...
Yeah, you could. The only reason I didn't go 10 is because I'm thinking of those more... Some of the more fucked up, you know, gore scenes from other movies that, you know, you can watch this and enjoy it. It's one of those that we've talked about where it's entertaining gore. You know, and some people would think it's disturbing or whatever, but those people haven't probably seen I Spit on Your Grave or Cannibal Holocaust. Those movies. So, I'm kind of reserved.
I strictly bow to your expertise as far as the gore score is concerned, but you could definitely make the argument for sure on this one. It's there's lots of gore to be had, and it's one of the I think as far as gore score is concerned, it's the goriest one we've watched since Evil Dead, the Evil Dead remake from 2013 back in episode 157. You gave that one a 10, so. It's been a little bit since we had one on this level, and this certainly qualifies for sure. But before we leave this one in the dustbin, I'll go ahead and go through the usual aggregates that we do. IMDb gets 6.9 out of 10 stars. Metascore of 78. That's out of 100, so that's pretty damn good. And over on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets 72% on the tomato meter and only 66% on the audience score. I figured it'd be a little higher on the audience score, but either way, I think they pretty much widely agree with us. We gave it 3 stars across the board. You know, for the most part, that's, you know, you could probably do the math, and that pretty much equates to be about the same. So there we go. That's where we'll leave it. Now that the summer disaster rolls on, we're far from done with this yet. We still got quite a few bullets left in the chamber. But next week, this is more of an ecological disaster, right? We're going to be watching Deepwater Horizon from 2016 with Mark Wahlberg, Kurt Russell, a handful of others. Hadn't been that long ago that it came out. So this is a disaster of different type of performance. You know, this is like a man-made disaster on an ecological scale, right? Because it's like an oil spill type of thing. So, but I think the movie, from what I remember seeing it not long after it came. I don't think I saw it at the theater or anything, but I think it was like not long after it released. And I recall, you know, enjoying it at the time. So this will be a little bit different from the stuff we've done so far. So looking forward to that. I always like the change of pace type stuff. And we've had plenty across the board here for the summer disaster. So, we'll leave it there. So come back next week for Deepwater Horizon. Go back to aaspookshow.com. Check out all the stuff in the archives. Go to our YouTube channel, patreon.com/aaspookshow. All the stuff we got going on. So for Will, Donnie, Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show, and the disaster rolls on next week with Deepwater Horizon.
So goodbye, everybody. And remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight.